Should be live. Welcome to For Feck's Sake Marketing Adventures with Carmel. And we have an amazing guest here today to talk about something that's really topical at the moment, all about the Great Resignation. So we have Dale Kennet with us today. Dale's the owner of Forensic HR, human resources expert in culture, industrial relations, employee relations, recruitment, and retention, and so much more. So he's a true expert in anything to do with human resources. I have managed to be in a room and listen to the feedback other people are giving of how Dale actually can help them within their business to talk to staff, to actually get the culture right and everything like that. But one of the big things is, and we're going to get into that in a little moment, is what about this Great Resignation that's going on there? What's happening there?
It's time for change. We've been cooped up in our offices for, a good couple of years with the COVID, and It's prompted us to do a lot of thinking. And for a lot of people, it's that time to change.
Yeah. And do you think it's driven? So I was doing some research on it. Is it as bad in Australia as it is in other countries? And is it
At the
driven
moment,
by?
no.
No, it's not. Okay. But do you think that's coming?
Yes.
Okay. And they're also calling it the big quit as well. How to explain to us what the big resignation is?
Look, it's realistically a change in everyone's mindsets. Before COVID, there were people that were wanting flexibility with their work environment, and they were wanting to try and work different ways, and companies were sort of going, no, we can't do this, we can't do that. We don't have the infrastructure available to do that. And it's too costly to implement that infrastructure. Yeah. COVID's hit, and then within a matter of weeks, we've all gone online. We're starting to work from home. And excuse me, we've changed the way that we've started doing things. And that one thing that was so hard that we couldn't do before become a reality. And in a sense, a lot of people have been feeling cheated by that aspect of it. I've been asking for that, but you've been telling me no. But all of a sudden, within a matter of weeks, we've suddenly got the infrastructure. We can do that. As an employer, are you cheating me out of what's occurring here? And so, and so then for the first 12 months, everyone's just sort of like sitting in their roles, doing what they can, just keep on working with what they got. And then as we've started coming out of our lockdowns and everything like that, it's that time where we start thinking, well, do I still feel cheated by that organisation? Do I still not feel right? But then also it comes down to, once we've gone into the new working environment where we're working from home, we're working flexible, if the company hasn't managed that correctly, then it's sort of like, well, hang on a second, I don't feel comfortable with the way that you did that. So no, I think it's time for me to move on as well. So there are so many factors that are coming into play that has resulted in people thinking, I think it's time to see where the greener grass is.
Yeah. And look, we can point the finger at the pandemic and say it's the pandemic that did it. In your opinion, is it only that? Is that the only thing that actually pushed it to this extent?
I believe it is, because it was such a big change. And once you feel cheated by someone, it's hard for you to let that go. It's not an easy thing to to sort of say, I can let that slide. And we hold on to that. And so I think the pandemic has had a lot to do with that, because that has really highlighted where you've been cheated. It's highlighted where you've been lied to. And there's not many of us that can continue on when we've been lied to like that. you feel a great level of disrespect from that.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting? It's almost like a relationship, which of course it is all relationships, but it's almost like that personal relationship. Somebody's maybe cheated or lied and you gotta find it hard to forgive them. So
But it is also
yeah,
but it's a different relationship because
yeah,
it's a relationship where you're more awake, because at the end of the day, you're awake at work a lot more
yeah,
than what you are with your partner at home. With your partner at home, you're asleep for maybe 5 to 8, 10 hours a night.
yeah.
And so, whereas at work, you can't sleep at work. So you're actually awake during that process. So that's why I
Yeah.
refer to it as like being cheated on while you've been awake all the time, because you have to be awake for it. So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's fascinating. So where are these people going? Like you say, the grass is greener, but I mean, there's any industry that I speak to, especially now in Western Australia and in Australia in general, are screaming out for staff. So where are they all going if they're resigning from all these places? Where are they going to?
It's this is the opportunity for the big change to do that thing that you've never done. I was talking with an organisation quite recently, one of their hiring superintendents on a mine site for underground mining, and he's hiring beauticians.
What? For an underground mine site? What the heck?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so this is that time where, for a person, you've got a real opportunity to actually try something that you've always wanted to be, but you haven't been able to get into it because there's always been that barrier whereby there's been enough people looking for that job, whereby it's like, oh, there's too much competition. We've found somebody more experienced, or we've had somebody that's got the right experience and everything. Whereas now companies are going, I'm so desperate. You're a beautician? Come on down.
Yeah.
You know, obviously,
You're
you know,
breathing, you're upright, you do.
exactly, filling somebody's face with some avocado and some cucumbers on the eye. That's exactly like drilling underground for gold.
I love it. I love it. But yeah, there's great opportunities, but still with those opportunities is why is everybody screaming out for staff? Like what's missing? Are some people trying that new thing is working for themselves as well? Is that part of it?
I don't have the statistics on people going out on their own. So that one's a hard one for me to actually answer. But there are just so many opportunities. And at this point in time, you really can't go that wrong.
Yeah.
You know, if you go, okay, let's try it for myself. But I'm finding that there are businesses that will quickly come stuck with the way that they're doing things because they don't have the skill set to move forward. You know, I've seen an organization recently start up. It was an industry that the person had always wanted to get into. But 6 months later, their doors are shut and they're moving on. And they're actually moving from a retail environment to the mining game.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, especially at this time because the mandate has just kicked in. So there is a lot of unrest and movement in that mining area at the moment, isn't there?
There is, but the mandates in Australia are really affecting every business and everyone. Because we're all having to be vaccinated or not. A lot of pressures for organisations dealing with that. You know, I was reading this morning that statistically that up until the grace periods were coming up, there was already a 10%, or the Fair Work Commission, there were 10% of the unfair dismissal claims were related to COVID. Now that the mandates are in, and so that alone is about 27 a week is what they're dealing with there. After the mandates, grace periods have ended, which they've all started ending now, they're expecting a marked increase in the amount of unfair dismissals that are going through because of the mandate.
Yeah, and that's a whole other pressure for companies as well.
It
So
is.
I think we have to do another call just about that on its own, because I know that one of when I was at a meeting that you were at, I heard somebody have a conversation with you about how you help them have the conversation even about that, because this is where it's very delicate and you have to be very careful too. But I think that's a whole session on its own, because I know that you are amazing at being able to come at it in a way that the person doesn't feel attacked either, that there's a respect to be had on all levels, and how we can have those conversations in a meaningful and safe way for both sides is really important. But let's just get back for a moment and look at, from a business perspective, how is the Great Resignation impacting the business owners themselves right now?
Look, they're having business owners are having to do more work themselves. They're having to be, instead of working on their business, they're going back to working in their business. Businesses that were planning to grow can't consider growing because they don't have the staff to help them grow, and they don't have the time themselves to sit back and think about what it is their vision is and what is their structure of moving forward.
Yeah. So it's becoming harder and harder. I spoke to somebody yesterday who has a chain of restaurants here in WA, and the person said to me, "We could employ 100 more people, but they can't get them. They
Yes.
literally can't
Yep.
get them." And the alternative is you close down some area or you don't, which then has a ripple effect, I would imagine, into the community too, because that business, whatever business it is, can't keep up the service or the level of service they want to because they don't have the staff.
Yep.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
much so.
So what's the how do companies that are maybe have some people that are teetering on the edge, what things can they put in place to try and prevent that Great Resignation impacting their business? What are some tips or insights there?
It's about looking at transforming the culture,
Right.
um, and but transforming the culture is not a quick fix.
Yeah.
Most transformations of organisations you're talking about, it's about a 10-year process. Um,
Wow.
if you're an organisation that has been going for quite a few years, because you've already got an ingrained culture. If you look like a big organisation like the ANZ, since about 2015, they've been trying to go through an organisational change, and the CEO that come in at that time, he tried doing it in 3 years. He's already conceded now that it's not going to be achieved because they had a 180-year-old culture that they were
Yeah.
trying to transform moving forward. But they're still working on it. And during the banking commission, there are actually questions, do you think this is achievable when your competitor, the National Australia Bank, talks about a 10-year transformation program? You're talking about 3 years. And he said, yes, it is achievable. But when you look now what's occurring, it's gone a lot slower.
Yeah.
That's obviously for an organisation with thousands of employees. But
Yeah.
when you're talking about an organisation with about 5 employees, it's still going to take years for the employees to see the change actually coming into fruition, because they're not going to believe the change and that you are going to be able to sustain that change for the
Yeah.
longer term. They're going to be skeptical, and when you sort of think about where they are, they'll start off in a stage of denial, and then they'll go into an area of resilience or trying to fight against it, and then they start to overcome some of those objections, and then they're fully on board moving forward. In that, it's a slow process to go through, and if you are going to do that transformation, the first thing you need to do is to think about who are going to be your resistors, and start
Yeah.
working with your resistors first, because they're the ones that are going to have the loudest voice.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so
Good
you
tip.
you need to think about that. And I've come into something myself whereby I've taken on a new chairmanship role in an organisation, and the senior manager there didn't like that change, and so there has been a resistance, and I miscalculated that resistance, and that resistance was a lot more, and has made the initial transition from transitioning just from a chairman so much harder.
Yeah.
And so you have to do with that. And so, I did make that mistake in the sense of I didn't look at that resistor enough, and it's made the change a lot harder and also extremely expensive.
Yeah.
Because that slowed it down. And we're now talking that we're going to end up having 6 months of no positive action for the organisation
Yeah.
because of this. And this is where we're talking about an organisation that's got 4 staff.
Right. Wow.
So
Yeah.
for a small organisation, it is still just important to think about how you to go about that transition and that culture and everything like that, because that resistor is going to carry such a loud voice. It does make it extremely, extremely hard. And so if you are going to transform or change your culture to stop staff leaving, you need to have a clear thought process. Don't make it like a New Year resolution. A New Year resolution
That's gone by
starts for
February.
exactly. And then also it comes down to if you've got an attitude whereby 6 months into the transformation, you go, this is getting too hard, I'm going to quit.
Yeah.
That's not going to work as well. You need to have that plan that really works for a good couple of years. When you're talking about change in itself, change 30 days is a partial change whereby it starts to being entrenched in you, but you really need 60 days for that change to start really coming into having a true stand-in point or entrenchment within your organization. And so you have to be consistent for that entire time. And that word consistent is one word that I use a lot in what I do with HR, because when you're, whatever it is that you do, and a lot of times that people end up in the Fair Work Commission, it's because the organization's decisions are not consistent all the time.
Yes.
And so consistency in your organization is important, and being true to the all along also is the important part, helping make you transform your organization just that little bit better. If you are seriously thinking about trying to transform your culture, I would turn around and sort of say, look at Cotter's Steps to Change. He is a world-renowned researcher and organizational developer who talks about the 8 steps to transforming your organization. And it's very well known, and you do need to follow some of those steps. When I spoke about the resistors of change and those that are in denial, the resistors, and then the ones that are coming on board and then sort of moving forward, that was written by an author called Raffaelli, and they were about what he described as the journey that you need to take when going through the transformation of your organization. So you just got to make sure you do the right amount of research. When you're doing it, I would consider talking with your organization. If you want to try and become an agile organization, it's making sure that communication is a lot more than what it was before, and the people have got to feel that the communication is real. to be able to help transform the organisation. And if you are a small organisation and you are struggling with the way that you don't have enough staff and everything like that, let's look at the time at trying to see who you can bring in as a new manager, So it's like, okay, Carmel, you've been with this organisation now. What would be the things that you would do to help improve our efficiency? By inviting you into the play, instead of it just becoming from the manager's perspective, you're coming in part of it. And then as an employee, you start feeling more valued because your ideas are starting to be listened to. And that's something that people really want to have happen, is they want to have their ideas listened to. But then also, if you are the employee, don't just come up with ideas and sort of say, oh, this is an idea that I can do. Give me the problem, give me the solution, and give me some of the steps how you think that needs to be implemented. Because then that means that you've thought about it a lot more rather than just having the concept. It's sort of like, when we built Sydney Harbour Bridge, somebody said, oh, we need something that goes across from there to there, Then it was a lot more than that, It's let's look at the steel, let's look at, let's look at the structure of how.
Let's look at the foundation so it doesn't fall down.
Exactly. And so I know it's a long way of answering your question of how you start going through that change. So I'd sort of think, if it was me and my organisation, I would first start talking to the staff and start encouraging them to first learn how to think outside of the square. So and sort of go, it's, just start doing brainstorming ideas and everything like that, and educate them on how they can start developing that ideas. How do you as a manager grow that idea to get from there to there? How do you identify where it starts to fail or where it starts to really work? And also why you want to educate your staff on that is because as soon as the thing is implemented, you want your staff to know that the review stage starts from day one. Once it's implemented, day two, you're already reviewing. How did that go? Okay. And why you want to educate your staff on that is because you don't want the staff to feel like the idea has been criticised from the very following day. You want them to know that, okay, I'm here to try and make sure that your idea grows to the thing it wants to do. But if we're not reviewing it regularly, it's got a chance to get away from us and get, and then some point it's going to get to a point where there's no return, and it could mean the business folds. But then also it comes down to the idea of what you've got is running away as a huge success. So then what you need to do is you need to narrow down what is that one thing that become the catalyst for that idea to be such a big success. I don't know if you've ever read the story about selling strawberries. It's where it's a hotel, and they were looking at the way they could sort of do things and everything like that and try and improve on the sales. They had all the metrics, on average, customers in the restaurant never ate dessert. Why did people not eat dessert? Well, I'm on a diet, so I'm not going to eat dessert because of the diet. And so this restaurant decided to try and sell strawberries because strawberries are seen as a healthy alternative. But then what they did was, in the restaurant, they sort of said, well, did you want cream with that? Because then you could have that little bit of sweetness with the strawberries and everything. And the strawberries become a selling success for that hotel chain. But then what happened was it moved into room service, and then it moved into other places within the hotel. It didn't just stay with the restaurant, because the idea could be growing into, into different areas in the organization, and suddenly strawberries become a huge success. And the staff were engaged with selling strawberries, and it became a huge success overall. So
Yeah.
it's about trying to find, would you really think strawberries could be a selling success? Not really, but the concept was correct in the sense
Yeah.
that people don't eat dessert because I'm on a diet or I want to be healthy or I've eaten too much. I can eat one strawberry. I can eat two strawberries, Let's
Yeah.
share some strawberries and everything. Oh, those strawberries were delicious. Hang on, let's get another serve of strawberries without being untrue to my diet at this
Yeah.
point in time.
Let's
So
just put
you
the
also
cream
need-
on the side.
It is, yes. Oh, sorry, that's strawberry just dropped into that cream there.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
that's exactly what happened.
What a
I'll put
shame.
it on the side. That bowl's empty. What happened? Yeah.
So it's making sure you know what is the catalyst for the success as well.
Yeah. And look, what I'm hearing you say is it's really important to include the staff in it, because I think the underlying thing in that is also about everybody wants significance of some way, shape, or form. They want to feel they're important. They want to feel listened to. They want to feel. So if you can get your staff to feel significant and part of the solution, it can get you halfway there before they resign and leave, because quite often then it's too late. As you said, they feel cheated on and nothing can change that then. So yeah, I love that. And really that framing it beforehand, we're going to examine this every day to see if it's working or what we need to tweak and change, and make it a growing, evolving thing rather than a good, bad, right, wrong. Taking that kind of terminology out of it.
Yeah, and as you're the communication queen, communication with your staff is important. That's why you make sure that they understand the full process, and so that way they don't feel like their idea is being criticized. Because the minute that they feel like their idea is being criticized, they start to lose faith in what's occurring. It's like, oh, you didn't think that idea was good enough, And look, I've been at fault at that. I remember having a financial person working in my organization who come with ideas, and I'm always looking at trying to grow ideas and everything like that, and I didn't review my thoughts with this person enough, and they would present ideas, and then I'd immediately start growing the idea and everything like that. And then one day she come in and she sort of said, look, you just don't listen to my ideas. You're always, and it's like, well, I do listen to the ideas, but I think I can already see where I can tweak it at the very start. So I start tweaking straight away, and that's been the wrong thing, to the point whereby one day she put in an idea. I started to tweak it, and she goes, you know what? I can't handle this anymore. I quit.
Wow.
And she left, and she walked out straight away.
So, wow.
It's
because people feel, as you say, they want to feel valuable. They want to feel a value. And if you start criticizing, and it's almost like, in a way, children, families, and whatever, we know with children, if we keep finding the things they do wrong, rather than trying to, one of the catchphrases I used to use was catch them doing something right and tell them. And I found that with teams, and and we've all done it wrong as well. I've been a management for many, many years, but I haven't always done it perfectly. But I found the best results were always by cohesive and getting people to actually buy into the idea, because they're much more inclined to sell strawberries when they think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
I would imagine for a brand new not a brand new, but a small to medium sized business too, it's really important in these times to check back in with yourself and say, well, what are the values of the business? How am I going to do? What do I want it to be in 6-12 months? Because, as you said, it's not a 2-week plan. And how hard is it sometimes to stick with those values that you put in place when you haven't identified them previously?
Yeah. Values, I think that's another video session in itself, is about writing about values, because I read values on organizations and mission statements on organizations many a time, and they've got all these fluffy words. They've got all these wanky words to make them sound like they're there. They don't sound real at the end of the day. And if your values don't sound real, it makes it hard. But then also it comes down to there are organizations that have, they may have like 5 different or even 3 different values, but in each of the values, there's another 5 bullet points to define that value. It's sort of like, that's too confusing.
Yes.
It gets too confusing for your staff. It gets too confusing for your clients, and it gets too confusing for yourself. And for me, I love the values of a company called Atlassian. They're 5 simple values that they have. Obviously one of them is sanitized, but one of the biggest one that really grabs you would be don't fuck with the customer. That's one of their values. There's no wanky words in that at all.
I'm laughing, going, okay, we're being censored here.
Yeah, we are. But that's one of their values. But their other values are play with heart. Be the team that you want to be. How simplistic are those values, and how real do they sound? Ever since I've read their values, I struggle to write values for my own business because I so relate to those 5 values.
Yeah, you want to just take them.
I just want to take them. Yeah. But these guys are big billionaires now, and I think their legal bill to take down my values would be quite simple. So all I get to do is I get to sort of say, I have no company values, but if I did, they'd be exactly the same as Atlassian.
I love it. And look, I love just that statement, don't F with the customer. At the end of the day, and we used to always say in hospitality, the customer is always right. We'd whisper in the background, except for when they're wrong. But the truth was to make them feel like they're always right. Again, it comes back to not putting somebody down, not making them feel less than, whether they're a customer, an employee, or whatever that is. So for you and this the Great Resignation, I suppose the last question I'm trying to put it out there is, it's going to happen to businesses. Be prepared and be proactive now rather than reactive later. Would that be a fair summation?
Yes. Yeah. And if you do it right, you don't have to retain your staff by giving them pay rises.
Yeah.
Because it's not always about the money. It's about the team. It's about the structure. It's about the way the decisions are made. There are so many underlying factors that make people turn around and sort of go, no, I don't agree with that. It's time for me to move on. They will sort of say, look, I've moved on. I've got greener pastures. I'm getting more money and everything like that. But when I look at, like, I've been interviewing for just over 20 years now. And whenever in my interviews, and my interviews don't change much and haven't changed much since about 2001. So they did change from the earlier days, but from about 2001, I've been asking about the same 15, 20 odd questions. And I'll always ask, all right, what sort of remuneration are you on at the moment? What remuneration are you looking for moving forward? And I would say statistically from that, 90 to 95% of the people would sort of say, similar to what I'm on now.
Yeah.
If I could get a little bit more, that'll be great. But what I'm getting now, just a little bit more, would be great.
Yeah. And I think you're right. And it comes back again, and it seems to be the consistent thing, is about people feeling valued. People will stay when they feel valued, when they feel important, when they feel that what they do matters. Because at the end of the day, isn't that what we all want? We all want to know that we matter. And as you say, if we're spending our waking hours in this job, because you're right, looking at it, you spend so much of your time in your job. And if you don't feel valued and significant and important in some way, shape, or form in that job, well, it's depressing.
Yeah, exactly.
No, honest. Awesome. Well, Dale, I think we have another few interviews to come up because we touched on a few things that were so amazing. So, guys, if you would like to get in contact with Dale, I'm going to pop up his LinkedIn handle, if that's the right. So it's Dale Kennet with 2 N's, 2 T's. I think I spelled it incorrectly myself earlier. And also, you can email Dale directly too, and he will get back to you. And especially one of his specialities is if you're in the poo-poo and you need somebody quick and some help and some advice, he is your man. So make sure that you look on the website is forensic HR, as in here in the email.com.au, and there's a number there that you can call to get straight through as well. But for today and for now, thank you so much, Dale, for hanging out with me, and we'll organize some more interviews soon.
All right, no problem. Thank you.
Bye from us, guys.